Yo, what's good, y'all? Looking at my notes right here, I really was in some type of bag when I was writing notes for this specific topic today. So I just want to say, try and follow me. IMO. I just want to try and just explaining this two sides of the same coin. They're the same but different, and same slightly. So what I'm really trying to get at in this video is explaining a side of a coin. But at the same time, I'm going to explain what two sides of the coin means and, this phrase and how it's been used so much, in our language, so to speak. So it can be two different things, but they're on the same type of spectrum. You see a coin. When you grab a random coin, you'll see there's a head on one side of a president that we had, and on the other side it'll be, possibly it can be a variety of many different things, but they're on the same coin, but they have two sides, right? There's two different sides, So how we can explain this is there are two different sides to a situation, right? So when you're on that side, you're basically explaining one side of a coin, one side of a situation, but it also is the same situation, but there's two sides that are to that situation. There's two sides of different situations, but they're on the same caliber, if that makes sense. So we can also use this as yin and yang. Not entirely, but that's why my notes are kind of everywhere in this, but you know what I'm saying? So there's dark on one side and light on the other, where there's a dark side where, when you put the coin on the table, there's going to be one side that's pointing in the light, and on the other side it's going to be dark. So different on both sides, but still the same coin. And there's plenty of different topics that you can look up and that I'll probably also talk about, where there will be two different topics, but they're in the same situation, in the same, circle, but it's two different situations. And, you can also think of this as being two-faced, right? Where you can flip a coin, and once you think about that, those famous words, frowning face and the happy face, when you look at those, those are two different faces, but at the same time, it's a face. That I'm just trying to sit down and relate this to whatever we're talking about, you know what I'm saying? So you could also think of this as there's two aspects of the same thing. And I'm also bringing up plenty of different ways I can look at this analogy and talk about what this means, and so we can understand it, and also relating to the game that we play of, tossing a coin, rather it lands on heads or tail, it is still the same coin, top or bottom. And it's two-sided, so you can look, there's two-sided arguments, two-sided situations, two-sided outlooks, point of views. And it's unrelated sometimes, but they're similar because they share that same coin, but the two sides are unrelated sometimes, right? And then there's also different ways or looking with a situation or a person where you're dealing with a situation. There may be two different ways you can handle that situation, because it's the same situation, but there's two ways that you can handle that exact situation, right? And they're very closely related, although they seem different. See, these notes are crazy, but I'm just trying to hit all these points, and then I can get more freely into my thoughts. They're related because they share the same thing, but there's two sides, or there's two different ways. And something may look different, but if you flip it or look at it at a different angle, that whole perspective may change, or there will be a whole different way that you can tackle that situation if you look at it from different angles. Because as a coin, you can flip the coin on two different sides, and there will be two sides that are completely different, but it's still the same coin. You know what I'm saying? So there can be two sides to the same person. Just in this situation, it could be two sides to the same person. And that makes them relate to this analogy here. So here we go. So here are some examples of, two different arguments they're closely related but still very different, but they're kind of in the same realm, same circle. So we can say rights and duties are two sides of the same coin. Discipline and freedom are two sides of the same coin. Environmental and I forgot what it said, something rights. Human rights and environmental rights. Two different things, but on the same spectrum. Two sides of the same coin. Environmental rights and human rights. Discipline and freedom, and rights and duties. Those are very closely related things, and they're in the same circle and realm, but they have different meanings and may look very different. So let's get to let's use one of these that I talked about, where we can talk about discipline and freedom. I really enjoyed finding that one and looking at that one, because I feel like those two topics are very prevalent now these days, and I once I had seen those, it really clicked in my head, like, oh, this is a part of the same conversation. This is in the same circle, same realm, but they're two different things, and they can be defined very differently as opposing each other, but they're on the same type of spectrum, right? Because you look at one and then you flip it over, and that's where the other one is, where freedom, you look at freedom and you flip it over to the other side, it's like discipline, it's like being on track, you know what I'm saying? And then you flip it over you look at discipline, you flip it over to freedom, it's like you were just on track, now you're like, you're free to do whatever. So let's get back to the main point of what I was trying to make, as explaining a side of a coin. How will that look as you're trying to debate or look at the coin and understand, like, okay, this is the one side, but you know what I'm saying, you have to also acknowledge the other side. So let's take the explaining a side of a coin. So I'll probably just explain little sides of both for what we're doing. So it's gonna be discipline and freedom, right? So first we're gonna look at discipline. So you're explaining a side of a coin, right? Or explaining, this side of the spectrum, where discipline is you're very on point, you're tracking everything, you're doing something every day, you're challenging yourself every day, and this is the side that you are on, and this is something that helps you in your everyday life. So that's explaining, this side, discipline, as on this side of the argument. Discipline may be something a lot of people lack, and is also very important in its own right. And now we go over to explaining freedom on the other side of the spectrum, where freedom is you're basically free to make choices you want. You don't have to do anything set in place. You don't have these things planned out for you. Everything is just open, and that's the other side. That is almost a goal, because once you're in that kind of mindset, it's like, I can do so much because I have everything open for me. But at the same time, looking at both of these together, they're go hand in hand. They're in the same coin. You can flip it and end up either being disciplined or end up being very free. So that's how you look at this phrase, and using this phrase is very, very fun, honestly, because it makes you think like, oh man, okay, so there's two different sides to this same situation, the same topic, same anything, where it'll just be, hey, I flip a coin and I can hear something totally different on either way I flip the coin. And it's just amazing, trying to talk about this phrase and all that it is. It's a very simple phrase, but at the same time it holds a lot of weight, and that's something I understand with English. The English language, they have a lot of simple things, but these things hold weight sometimes. And also in other languages, they have a lot of little phrases that mean so much, so once you really sit down and think about them. And that's why I feel like I really enjoy phrases, honestly. Just phrases that have deeper meaning, that you can hear that phrase and like, okay, this can get into a whole discussion. And that's what I wanted to do with two sides of the same coin. Where there's discussion, let's make one myself right now, where there's discussion or there's debate. That's in the same realm, but at the same time, the debate and discussion can be arguably two different things. Hey, if you want to argue that, man, we can get into that. But debate and discussion, to me, can be two different things. Allegedly. So, with that, y'all, I just wanted you to talk about this little phrase right quick. And I recommend you kind of look at two sides of the same coins. A lot of time, two sides of the same coin. And I challenge you to find I challenge you to find two sides of the same coin in your everyday life. And that's what I kind of hope to push with this, where I'm also pushing like, hey, there's two sides to the same situation at all times. So I just challenge that y'all look at that, and to myself as well, that we all look at that and remember that, okay, look, yeah, there's two different sides. There's two different ways I can look at this, talk about this, whatever that may be. But that's y'all. It's been Truezer, and I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Peace.